The gavel hit the mahogany sound block with a finality that echoed through the silent courtroom. It was a sound sharper than my mother's criticism, louder than my brother's demands, and more satisfying than any lottery win could ever be. Across the aisle, the color drained from my mother's face as the judge's words registered. Dismissed with prejudice. But the real blow hadn't landed yet. My attorney, Mr. Thorne, stood up, adjusting his silk tie with the slow precision of an executioner. He held a single document in his hand. A document that would turn their greed into a lifetime of regret. Your Honor, before we adjourn, there is one final matter regarding the trust's bylaws that the plaintiffs need to see. I watched my brother Gavin's eyes narrow. He didn't know it yet, but he had just cost himself a fortune. Not by losing the lawsuit, but simply by filing it. Before we watch their world crumble, please subscribe to the channel and comment down below where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation as we go. The call came 2 weeks before Christmas. It carried the specific ringtone I had assigned to my mother. A jarring, shrill alarm that triggered an automatic release of cortisol in my bloodstream. I was sitting at my desk at Thorne & Associates, buried under a mountain of discovery documents for a corporate merger. The kind of invisible, essential work that kept the firm running but never got your name on the door. I took a deep breath, steeling myself before swiping answer. Hello, Mother. Tessa, darling, we need to finalize the Christmas Eve logistics. Her voice had that deceptive sweetness. The sugary coating she applied whenever she was about to extract something from me. I'm listening. We've decided to elevate the gift exchange this year. Since Gavin's crypto portfolio is doing so well, or so he claims, we're setting the buy-in at $1,000. My stomach dropped. $1,000 was my rent. It was 3 months of groceries. Mom, I can't afford that. You know I'm still paying off the student loans you promised to help with. There was a pause on the other end. A silence loaded with judgment. Well, that is a problem, isn't it? We're going for a specific aesthetic this year, Tessa. Luxury. Opulence. If you show up with some discount store sweater, you'll ruin the photos. And you know how important the Instagram engagement is for Gavin's personal brand. So I'm uninvited? I asked, my voice trembling slightly, despite my best efforts to remain professional. Think of it as a mercy, she replied breezily. You won't feel out of place and we won't have to worry about the lighting being thrown off by your drabness. Just stay home, dear. Maybe pick up an extra shift. God knows you need the money. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, the screen blurring as tears pricked my eyes. It wasn't just the rejection. It was the familiarity of it. A memory surfaced sharp and unwelcome. I was 14 years old. It was 2 in the morning on a school night. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Come get us. No address. No apology. Just an order. I pulled on my winter coat over my pajamas. I walked 6 blocks through the snow to the dive bar on Mitchell Street. Inside, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and stale beer. Mom was draped over the bar, laughing too loud. Dad was slumped in a corner booth, his head on the table. The bartender looked at me with pity. Your parents' tab is $83. I pulled out the crumpled bills I had been saving for a class trip. $47. It was all I had. The bartender sighed and waved us out. I half carried Mom to the car. Dad stumbled behind us, muttering about how the world didn't appreciate his genius. On the drive home, Mom patted my hand. You're such a good girl, Tessa. So responsible. I don't know what we'd do without you. The next morning, she didn't remember. She never remembered. But I did. I always remembered. That's when I learned my role. I wasn't the child. I was the designated adult. The one who paid the bills. The one who made sure the light stayed on. The one who cleaned up their messes while they played at being functional. I shook the memory away and grabbed my coat. I needed air. I needed to escape. My feet carried me to the same gas station I visited every Tuesday and Friday. A ritual of mediocrity that grounded me. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sickly pallor on the linoleum floor. I grabbed a stale turkey sandwich and a lukewarm coffee. At the counter, Jerry the clerk, who had seen me at my lowest for 5 years, gave me a sympathetic nod. Rough day, Tessa? You have no idea, Jerry. He rang up my items, family stuff, Always. He leaned in, lowering his voice. You know, I won 20 grand on a scratch-off once? Told my brother about it. Next thing I knew, he was at my door with a sob story about his mortgage. Took half of it before I realized he was lying. Family changes when money's involved. Tessa. You remember that? I nodded, forcing a smile. I'll keep that in mind. My eyes drifted to the lottery terminal. The jackpot was $45 million. Usually, I ignored it. I was a paralegal. I believed in evidence, in hard work and cause and effect. Lotteries were a tax on desperation. But tonight, with my mother's voice still echoing in my ear, I felt a sudden, reckless urge. One ticket, Jerry. Quick pick. I handed him my debit card. The machine beeped. The thermal paper rolled out with a soft mechanical whir. He handed me the slip. Good luck, kid. You deserve a break. I shoved the ticket into my wallet right behind the maxed out credit card I used to bail Gavin out of jail last Thanksgiving. I didn't check the numbers that night. I went home to my studio apartment. The heat was struggling against the December cold. I could see my breath in the air near the window. I opened my laptop. I didn't look at social media. I couldn't bear to see Gavin's stories about his investment strategies. Instead, I opened the folder labeled Project Tuscany. It was my escape hatch. Hundreds of photos of a dilapidated villa in the Italian countryside. Villa Serenity. It was a ruin. Roof caving in. Overgrown garden. Plumbing from the 19th century. But in my mind, I had restored every inch of it. I had blueprints. I had mood boards. I had calculated the cost of Carrara marble for the kitchen counters. I knew exactly how many olive trees would fit in the south garden. I spent hours that night mentally sanding the floors, planting rosemary, and installing copper fixtures. It was a fantasy. A blueprint for a life I would never afford. But it was mine. No one knew about it. No one could take it from me. I fell asleep with my laptop still open and the villa's crumbling stone walls glowing on the screen. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of the news on my neighbor's TV through the thin walls. Winning ticket sold in downtown Chicago. I brushed my teeth, ignoring it. I made coffee. I reached into my wallet to grab my transit card and my fingers brushed against the thermal paper. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. I pulled out my phone and searched for the winning numbers. 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. I looked at the ticket. 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. The coffee cup slipped from my hand. It shattered on the floor, splashing hot liquid onto my socks. I didn't feel the burn. I didn't scream. I didn't jump for joy. I felt a wave of pure, unadulterated terror. My hands started shaking. My vision narrowed. I sank to the floor amidst the coffee and shattered ceramic. If they knew. If my mother knew. If Gavin knew. They wouldn't just ask for a share. They would consume me. They would pick the meat from my bones until there was nothing left. I sat there for 10 minutes staring at the ticket. The numbers didn't change. This wasn't a mistake. This was real. $45 million. Before taxes, probably $27 million. Enough to disappear. Enough to buy Villa Serenity and never look back. But only if I protected it. Only if I built a fortress they couldn't breach. I stood up. I cleaned up the coffee. I put on my work clothes. I grabbed my laptop and the ticket. And I walked into Thorne & Associates with a singular focus. Survive. I had spent my entire life being the irresponsible one. The one who cleaned up messes. The one who sacrificed so they could thrive. Now it was my turn. And I wasn't going to let them take this from me. Not this time. I thought about the photo I kept in my desk drawer. It was old. Faded at the edges. Gavin was 12. I was 8. I had fallen off my bike and scraped my knee so badly I couldn't walk. Gavin had carried me on his back all the way home. He told me not to cry. He said he would always protect me. On the back of the photo, in my child's handwriting, I had written, "Best brother ever." I wondered what happened to that boy. When did he stop protecting me and start seeing me as a resource? When did love become a transaction? I didn't have the answer, but I knew one thing. That boy was gone, and the man who replaced him didn't deserve my loyalty. 2 hours later, I walked into Mr. Thorne's office. He looked up, surprised to see me without a stack of files. Tessa? Everything all right? I closed the door behind me. I locked it. Mr. Thorne, I need you to draft a trust agreement. Immediately. A blind trust. He took off his glasses. For which client? For me. I placed a ticket on his mahogany desk. His eyes widened. He looked at the ticket, then at me, then back at the ticket. 45 million? Before taxes, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I want total anonymity, Mr. Thorne. I want a revocable living trust. I want a fortress that no one can breach, especially not the people who share my DNA. Thorne leaned back in his chair studying me. He had been practicing law for 30 years. He has seen every kind of human behavior. Greed, desperation, fear. But what he saw in my face now was something different. Determination. Tell me about your family, he said quietly. I took a breath. My mother uninvited me from Christmas yesterday because I can't afford the $1,000 gift exchange. My brother has borrowed over $40,000 from me in the past 5 years. Money he never paid back. My father hasn't worked in a decade, but somehow always has money for his hobbies. They don't see me as a daughter or a sister, Mr. Thorne. They see me as an ATM. And if they find out about this, they will destroy me to get it. Thorne nodded slowly. Smart. We'll name it the Blue Sky Trust to keep it vague. We'll claim the prize through the entity. Your name will never appear in the press. The state allows anonymous claims through legal trusts, correct? He nodded. Illinois is one of the few states that permits it. You'll need to sign the ticket over to the trust before we claim. Once that's done, the trust becomes the winner. Not you. Relief flooded through me. How long will it take? If we work through the night, we can have the documents ready by tomorrow afternoon. Then it's just a matter of filing with the Lottery Commission. Let's do it. We spent the next 4 hours drafting. Every clause was a brick in the wall. Every stipulation was a loaded gun pointed at anyone who tried to climb over it. Thorne walked me through the structure. The trust will be irrevocable once the funds are transferred. You'll be the sole beneficiary, but the trustee will have discretion over distributions. That means even if someone sues you personally, they can't touch the trust assets. Who will be the trustee? I'll serve as trustee, he said. It's the cleanest way to maintain the firewall. I trust you, Mr. Thorne. You've never once treated me like anything less than competent. He smiled. That's because you are competent, Tessa. Most of my associates half-ass their work. You don't. I've been waiting for you to realize your own worth. I guess winning the lottery is one way to force the issue. We drafted the distribution clauses. We outlined the tax strategy. We built in protections against claims of undue influence or fraud. Then we got to the beneficiary designations. Do you want to name any secondary beneficiaries? Thorne asked. In case something happens to you? I hesitated. The logical answer was no. My family didn't deserve a cent. But there was still that small voice in my head. The voice that sounded like my mother. Family is family, Tessa. You owe us. I took a deep breath. Add a clause, I said quietly. Thorne looked up from his notepad. What kind of clause? A family clause. I paused, choosing my words carefully. If my immediate family maintains a cordial relationship with me for 1 full year. If they do not ask for money. If they do not attempt to interfere with my life or my finances. Then, on the anniversary of the trust, the trustee shall distribute $100,000 to each of them, annually, for as long as the conditions are met. Thorne frowned. Tessa, you know the odds of them meeting those conditions are 0. I know I said staring at the rain streaking against the window, but I need to know that I gave them a chance. I need to know that if they lose out, it was their choice, not my cruelty. Thorne sighed, but typed it in. Subsection 4.2. The conditional gift. He paused. You understand this clause is effectively a trap? If they sue you or harass you, the clause is void. They'll never see a dime. Yes. And if they do somehow manage to behave themselves, then they'll get more money than they ever gave me. And I'll sleep well knowing I was the bigger person. It's your money, Thorne said. Your rules. We also needed a forensic accountant. Someone to track the assets and ensure the IRS didn't come knocking. Someone who could help me document every financial abuse my family had committed over the years. Thorne picked up his phone. I know a guy, he said. Mark Petrov. He's former FBI, specialized in financial crimes. If there's dirt to find, he'll find it. An hour later, Mark walked into the conference room. He was 34 with messy dark hair and eyes that looked like they had seen too many fraudulent tax returns. He carried a laptop and a leather notebook. He sat down, reviewed my rudimentary spreadsheets of my family's past financial abuse, and whistled. You kept receipts, he said, looking at the ledger I had maintained since I was 16. Every dollar they borrowed? Every time they stole from my purse? Every loan that became a gift? Yes, I said. It was the only way I could prove to myself I wasn't crazy. Mark looked at me, really looked at me. Not the way men usually did. Not with pity or lust or dismissal, but with respect. This isn't just accounting, Tessa. This is a crime scene log. You're not just a winner. You're a survivor. For the first time in my life, a man looked at my finances and saw my strength, not a resource to be exploited. I felt a flush of heat that had nothing to do with the money. Mark opened his laptop. Okay, let's build the armor. First, we document everything. Every loan. Every theft. Every broken promise. Then we cross-reference it with their spending. If they claimed they needed money for rent but bought a jet ski, we have proof of fraud. Can you do that? I can do that. He smiled. It's literally what I do for a living. I'm very good at it. Over the next 2 hours, Mark walked me through the process. He pulled out my brother's social media, Instagram posts of luxury vacations, Rolex watches, bottle service at clubs, all while he was claiming to be broke. Mark took screenshots of everything. Your brother is an idiot, he said. He's documenting his own fraud. What about my mother? Mark pulled up her Facebook. She had posted photos of a $1,000 handbag just 2 weeks ago. The same week, she told me she couldn't afford her electric bill. Same story, he said. We can prove that every loan you gave them was based on false pretenses. That strengthens your case if they try to claim you owe them. What about the money for Gavin's bail? Mark pulled up the court records. The charge was disorderly conduct. He got drunk and punched a bouncer. You paid $1,200 to bail him out. Yes. Did he pay you back? No. Mark added it to the ledger. Loan number 17. Unpaid. We worked until midnight. By the time we finished, I had a comprehensive file. $43,000 in unpaid loans. 12 instances of theft. 7 documented lies about financial need. It was a prosecutor's dream. Mark closed his laptop. If they come after you, Tessa, we bury them. Thank you, I said. For what? For seeing me. Not my family's version of me. The real me. Mark looked at me, and for a moment, the professional mask slipped. I know what it's like, he said quietly. To be the designated adult. To clean up everyone else's messes. My mother was a gambling addict. I spent my entire childhood paying off her debts. I didn't escape until I was 25. I'm sorry. Don't be. It made me good at my job. And it taught me who deserves my loyalty. Spoiler alert, it's not the people who share your blood. I smiled. We're going to get along just fine. The next morning, Thorne filed the trust paperwork. By noon, the Blue Sky Trust officially existed. By 2 p.m., we were at the Illinois Lottery Commission office. I signed the ticket over to the trust. The clerk verified the numbers. She smiled. Congratulations. This is life-changing. Yes, I said. It really is. The payout would take 2 weeks to process. In the meantime, I had to act normal. Go to work. Pay my bills. Pretend I was still the struggling paralegal. The hardest part was opening the family group chat. I hadn't been removed from it. I was just muted. I could see their messages, but I couldn't respond. It was a digital representation of my entire childhood. Gavin had posted a screenshot of a news article. Mystery winner claims $45 million via trust. His comment, some rich prick probably won it. The rich get richer. Mom replied, if I won that, I'd finally buy that vacation home in Aspen. I deserve it after raising 3 ungrateful kids. That chimed in. Whoever won it better invest it right. Probably some idiot who'll blow it all in a year. I stared at the screen. They had no idea, and they wouldn't have known if I hadn't made one fatal mistake. I had printed out the brochure for Villa Serenity. I kept it in my bag, a talisman of my future. On December 23rd, Gavin stopped by my apartment unannounced. He claimed he needed to use my bathroom, but I knew he was looking for cash or something to pawn. I was in the kitchen making tea. I heard the rustle of paper. I walked out to see him holding the glossy brochure, and underneath it, the notepad, where I had scribbled Blue Sky Trust, Thorn meeting 2 p.m. What's this? Gavin asked, his eyes darting from the paper to me. Why are you looking at a $5 million Italian villa? And what's a Blue Sky Trust? Give me that. I snatched the papers away. It's work stuff. For a client. Gavin didn't say anything, but I saw the gears turning. The same gears that calculated poker odds and crypto scams. He looked at my knee boots. Not expensive, just new. He looked at the coffee maker on my counter. A mid-range model I treated myself to after years of instant coffee. He smiled. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sure, Tess. Work stuff. He left without asking for money. That should have been my first warning. Silence from Gavin was never a good sign. It was the calm before the storm, the moment before the trap snapped shut. I locked the door behind him. I stood there holding the Villa Serenity brochure. My hands were shaking. He knew. He didn't have proof yet, but he knew. And now it was only a matter of time before the war began. Christmas Eve arrived. I was alone in my apartment packing a single suitcase. I had booked a flight to Rome for the 26th. Just go and see the villa. Make it real. Touch the stones. Walk through the overgrown garden. Prove to myself that this wasn't just another fantasy. At 7 p.m., there was a pounding on my door. Not a knock. A pounding. Like someone was trying to break through. I looked through the people. It was the whole cast. Mom, Dad, Gavin. And they were holding gifts. Cheap drugstore chocolates and a bottle of sparkling cider that probably cost $6. I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. What are you doing here? Tessa, Mom cried out, her voice pitching up an octave. Don't be silly. It's Christmas Eve. We couldn't let you spend it alone. Open up. I thought I was uninvited, I said coldly. I thought I would ruin the aesthetic. Oh honey, that was just my understanding. Gavin chimed in, pushing his face into the gap. We're family, Tess. Families fight, but we make up. Especially when there's so much to celebrate. He knew. The way he looked at me. Predatory. Hungry. Like a wolf that had finally cornered its prey. I'm not opening the door, I said. Go away. Mom's face contorted. The mask slipped. The sugary sweetness evaporated. Open the store right now, young lady. We know you won. Gavin checked the registry. That trust is yours. We know you have the money. How dare you hide this from us? Her screaming echoed down the hallway. Neighbors were opening their doors. I could see Mrs. Chen from 3B peeking out. You owe us, Dad yelled, pounding his fist against the wood. The chain rattled. We raised you. We fed you. We clothed you. That money belongs to the family. I backed away, my hands shaking. Not with fear this time, but with rage. Pure white-hot rage. I pulled out my phone. I dialed 911. I need police at 447 West Monroe, apartment 2C. My family is trying to break into my home. What? Mom shrieked. You're calling the police on your own mother? Yes, I said, loud enough for the operator to hear. They are threatening me and attempting to force entry. I do not feel safe. Within 6 minutes, 2 officers arrived. I watched through the people as they spoke to my parents. Mom was crying, playing the victim. She's mentally unstable, officer. We're just worried about her. She won't let us help her. Gavin was trying to charm them. Look, we just want to talk to our sister. She's been acting strange. We're concerned she's being taken advantage of. Dad was the wild card. He lunged toward my door again. Tessa, open this damn door! The officers grabbed him. Sir, you need to calm down. One of them knocked on my door. Ma'am, are you all right? I opened it slightly, keeping the chin on. I'm fine, officer. But I've asked them to leave multiple times. They won't. Do you want to press charges? Not yet. But I want this documented. And I want them to leave. The officer nodded. He turned to my family. You need to leave now. If you come back, we will arrest you for trespassing. Mom wailed. She's our daughter. We have a right. No, ma'am, you don't. She's an adult. She's asked you to leave. You need to comply. I watched as they were escorted to the elevator. Mom was sobbing. Gavin was glaring at me with pure hatred. Dad was shouting about how ungrateful I was. The elevator doors closed. Silence. I locked the door. I slid down to the floor. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilt. I felt relief. The next morning, I called Mark. He answered on the second ring. Tessa, what's wrong? They know. They showed up at my apartment last night. I had to call the police. He swore under his breath. Did they threaten you? Yes. Good. What? I mean, it's not good that they threatened you, but it's good that there's a police report. Documentation. If they try to sue you, we have proof of harassment. Mark, do you think they'll actually sue? There was a pause. Tessa, people who feel entitled to other people's money don't just walk away. They double down. My guess is you'll hear from a lawyer within a week. I felt my stomach drop. What do I do? You do nothing. You let me and Thorne handle it. You live your life. You don't engage. You don't respond to their calls or texts. You gray rock them. Gray rock? It's a technique. You become boring, unresponsive, a gray rock. Give them nothing to work with. No emotion, no information, no ammunition. I can do that. I know you can. Mark paused. Hey, are you still planning to go to Italy? Yes, the day after tomorrow. Good. Get out of the country for a while. Let things cool down. I'll keep an eye on things here. Thank you, Mark. Tessa, there's something else I need to tell you. What? The villa. The one you want to buy. Yes. I contacted the seller, asked if they'd hold it for a few weeks, in case your funds were delayed. I stiffened. Mark, I told you I wanted to do this myself. I know, and you are. I didn't pay anything. I didn't make any promises. I just asked if they'd wait. They said yes. The developer who wanted to tear it down backed out. Something about permits. So it's still available. I felt tears prick my eyes. Why did you do that? Because I know what it's like to have a dream deferred, Tessa. I know what it's like to finally have the resources to make it real and then have someone try to take it away. I didn't want you to lose your villa because of their greed. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. Just get on that plane. Go see your house. I will. 2 days later, I was at O'Hare. I had one suitcase, one carry-on, and a one-way ticket. I wasn't sure when I'd come back. Maybe never. As I stood in the security line, my phone buzzed. It was an email from a law firm I'd never heard of. Pinch and Associates. The subject line, Notice of Legal Action. My hands went cold. I opened it. Dear Miss Miller, we represent Gavin Miller and Judith Miller in a matter concerning the estate known as the Blue Sky Trust. It has come to our attention that said trust was funded with assets that rightfully belong to our clients. We are filing a petition for constructive trust and quantum merit. We demand immediate freeze of all assets pending resolution. Please contact our office within 48 hours. Failure to respond will result in emergency court action. I read it 3 times. They were really doing this. They were actually suing me. I forwarded the email to Thorne and Mark. Then I put my phone on airplane mode. I wasn't going to let this ruin my trip. I wasn't going to let them win. Not this time. The flight was long. 13 hours. I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about the lawsuit, about the police report, about the look on Gavin's face when the officers escorted him away. I thought about the photo in my desk drawer. Gavin carrying me home. Best brother ever. When did that boy disappear? When did he look at me and see a Bink instead of a sister? Maybe it was gradual. Maybe it was the first time I said yes when I should have said no. The first time I bailed him out. The first time I made his problem-y responsibility. Or maybe it was always there. Maybe I just didn't want to see it. Maybe I wanted to believe that family meant something more than shared DNA. But it doesn't. Not always. Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones who are supposed to love you. And sometimes the only way to survive is to walk away. The plane landed in Florence at noon. The sun was brilliant. The air smelled like espresso and something sweet I couldn't identify. I took a taxi to the villa. It was an hour outside the city, up winding roads through vineyards and olive groves. The driver spoke no English. I spoke no Italian. But when we pulled up to the villa, he smiled and said something that sounded like a blessing. I paid him. I stood alone in front of the iron gate. Villa Serenity. The name was barely visible on the rusted plaque. I pushed the gate open. It creaked. The garden was overgrown. Wild rosemary. Lavender gone to seed. Stone paths cracked and uneven. The villa itself was exactly as it looked in the photos. Crumbling. Beautiful. Mine. I walked up the steps. I pushed open the heavy wooden door. Inside, the air was cool and smelled like stone and thyme. The floors were terracotta dusty but intact. The walls were thick. The windows tall. There was a fireplace big enough to stand in. I walked through each room slowly. The kitchen with its ancient sink. The dining room with frescoes fading on the ceiling. The bedrooms with views of the valley. And then I found the terrace. It faced west. The sun was starting to sink. The light was golden. I stood there and breathed. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. My phone buzzed. I had turned off airplane mode. 23 missed calls. 17 texts. All from my family. I didn't read them. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I opened my settings. Block contact. Block contact. Block contact. Then I turned off my phone completely. I sat on the terrace as the sun set. The sky turned pink, then orange, then purple. The valley below filled with shadows. Somewhere back in Chicago, my family was plotting, hiring lawyers, building their case. But here in this falling down villa on a hill in Tuscany, I was free. For the first time in my life, I was free. And I wasn't going back. Not to them. Not to that life. Not ever. I pulled the Villa Serenity brochure from my bag. I looked at the glossy photo of the terrace. Then I looked at the real thing in front of me. It was better. So much better. Because it was real. And it was mine. I stayed at the villa for 3 days. 3 perfect days where no one knew where I was. Where no one could demand anything from me. I hired a local contractor to assess the damage. He walked through the rooms, shaking his head and muttering in Italian. But when I asked him if it was fixable, he grinned. "Cece, everything is fixable. Just expensive." I laughed. Expensive wasn't a problem anymore. On the 4th day, I checked my email. There were 47 messages from Pinch and Associates, each one more threatening than the last. And one from Thorne. Subject: we need to talk. I called him. "Tessa, where are you?" "Italy." "Good. Stay there." "What happened?" "They filed for an emergency asset freeze. The judge granted a temporary restraining order." My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means your accounts are frozen until the preliminary hearing. You can't access the trust funds. You can't withdraw. You can't transfer. For how long? 30 days. Maybe more if they can convince the judge there's merit to their case. I sat down heavily on the terrace steps. The villa. I haven't closed on it yet. The deposit is due in 2 weeks. If I can't wire the funds, I lose it. I know. I'm sorry, Tessa. Can we fight it? We are fighting it. But their lawyer is good. Sleazy, but good. He's arguing that the ticket was purchased with Gavin's money. That's insane. It's also provable as false. But we have to wait for the hearing to present our evidence. What evidence? The receipt from the night gave you the $20. The debit card statement showing you bought the ticket with your own funds. The ledger of loans you've kept for years. Mark is building a forensic timeline that shows every dollar you gave them. But Tessa, there's something else. What? Your mother submitted a video. It's you at 10 years old. Birthday party. You're saying, when I grow up, I'm gonna be rich and buy mommy a big house. She's claiming it's evidence of a verbal contract. I close my eyes. I remember that party. The cake with pink frosting. The paper hat. I remembered wanting so desperately to make her happy. To be good enough. That was a child's promise. I know. And any judge with half a brain will see that. But Pinch is spinning it. He's saying you've been planning this your whole life. That you always intended to share your wealth with the family. That's not a legal contract. In Illinois, it's not. But he's trying to create a narrative. A story that makes you look like the villain. I felt rage building in my chest. So what do? You come home. You sit for a deposition. You let Mark and me destroy their case piece by piece. And Tessa, there's one more thing. What now? Gavin's lawyer found out about your trip to Italy. He's arguing that you're fleeing the jurisdiction, trying to hide assets offshore. That's absurd. I know. But you need to come back. Sooner rather than later. I looked out at the valley. At the cypress trees lining the driveway. At the villa with its crumbling walls and fading frescoes. I didn't want to leave, but I had to. Because if I didn't fight, they would win. And I would lose everything. Okay, I said. I'll book a flight. Good. And Tessa? Yes? We're going to win this. I hung up. I sat on the terrace for a long time. The sun was setting again. The light was softer now. Golden and forgiving. I thought about my mother's video. About 10-year-old me promising to take care of her. I wondered if she remembered the other promises. The ones she made to me. When I was 16 and working 3 jobs to save for college. She promised she'd help with tuition. She said education was important, that I was smart, that I deserved a future. And then 2 weeks before I was supposed to start, she sat me down at the kitchen table. Tessa, honey, we need to talk. Gavin's business is in trouble. He needs capital, just $20,000. He'll pay it back in 6 months. That's my college fund. I know, sweetie. But family helps family. And you're so smart. You'll figure it out. You always do. I gave her the money. All of it. Every dollar I'd saved from washing dishes and stocking shelves. I went to community college instead. I worked full-time. I took out loans. Gavin's business failed in 3 months. He never paid me back. And my mother never mentioned it again. But she kept the video. The one of me promising to take care of her. She kept it for 18 years, waiting for the moment she could use it as a weapon. That's not love. That's strategy. I flew back to Chicago the next day. The apartment felt smaller, colder. Mark met me at my door with coffee and a thick folder. Welcome back. Thanks. I brought reinforcements. He handed me the folder. Inside was a complete financial autopsy of my family. Every loan, every lie, every dollar they'd taken from me. But there was more. Mark had found things I didn't know about. Gavin had opened a credit card in my name when I was 19. Maxed it out. Let it go to collections. I didn't find out until I was 23 and tried to rent my first apartment. My credit was destroyed. It took me years to fix it. I thought it was identity theft, Mark said. Turns out your brother had your social security number. And your mother co-signed. She knew? She knew. There were bank statements showing wire transfers from my account to Gavin's. Transfers I never authorized. How is this possible? Your mother was on your account as a co-signer. You added her when you were 17, right? Yes. She said it was for emergencies, in case something happened to me. She's been draining your account for years, Tessa. Small amounts, 50 here, 100 there. Enough to fly under the radar, but it adds up. How much? Over the past 10 years, about $18,000. I felt sick. That's theft. Yes, and we can prove it. Mark pulled out another document. This is the police report from Christmas Eve. Your mother claimed you were mentally unstable, but the officers noted that you were calm and coherent. They noted that your family was aggressive and threatening. This works in our favor. I nodded numbly. Mark sat down next to me. I know this is hard. I know it feels like betrayal, but you need to understand something, Tessa. What? They don't see this as wrong. In their minds, you owe them. Your mother genuinely believes that raising you entitles her to your earnings. Gavin genuinely believes that because you're siblings, your money is his money. They're not evil. They're just so deeply entitled that they can't see the harm they're doing. Does that make it better? No. But it helps to understand the enemy. The deposition was scheduled for 3 days later. Thorne prepped me. He ran through every possible question, every trap Pinch might set. Stay calm. Answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer information. Don't let them provoke you. I can do that. I know you can. The deposition room was sterile. White walls, gray carpet, a long table with uncomfortable chairs. Gavin and my mother sat on one side. Pinch sat between them, looking like a ferret in a cheap suit. I sat across from them. Thorne on my left. Mark on my right. The court reporter set up her machine. Pinch cleared his throat. Miss Miller, let's begin. Isn't it true that on the morning of December 12th, your brother handed you a $20 bill? Yes. And isn't it true that you used that money to purchase the winning lottery ticket? No. Pinch frowned. No? I used that $20 to buy beer and laundry detergent at the Stop and Shop on 4th Street. At 6:45 p.m. Here's the receipt. I slid the document across the table. Pinch picked it up. His frown deepened. This doesn't prove you didn't use this money for the ticket. Exhibit B. I slid another document. Bank of America statement. December 12th, 7:15 p.m. Transaction at Joe's gas station. $2. Debit card ending in 4598. Name on card, Tessa Miller. The lottery ticket was purchased electronically, Mr. Pinch, with my money. From my account. There's a digital trail. The room went silent. Gavin's face was red. My mother looked confused. Pinch shuffled his papers. Well, regardless of the ticket purchase, Mrs. Miller asserts a long-standing verbal contract, a family agreement to share assets. She has video evidence of you promising to support her. I've seen the video. And I was 10 years old, Mr. Pinch. Children make promises. They promise to be astronauts and princesses. That doesn't create a legally binding contract. Mrs. Miller invested in your upbringing. She has a right to compensation. Exhibit C. I slid a stack of papers across the table. What is this? Promissory notes. Dated 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and last year. Every time my mother borrowed money from me, I made her sign a note. Standard legal boilerplate. Clause 4 states, this agreement constitutes the entire understanding between the parties and supersedes all prior agreements, verbal or written. I looked at my mother. You signed these, Mom. As a legal adult, you acknowledged that my money was mine, and your debt was yours. My mother's face went from confusion to rage. You ungrateful little... Mrs. Miller Thorne interrupted. Please refrain from speaking. But she's... Pinch put a hand on her arm. Let me handle this. He turned back to me. Miss Miller, don't you think it's cruel to deny your family after you've come into such wealth? I leaned forward. Mr. Pinch, I have given my family over $43,000 in the past 5 years. I have bailed my brother out of jail. I have paid my mother's gambling debts. I have been the designated adult since I was 14 years old. The cruelty isn't in saying no. The cruelty is in them asking. The room went dead silent. The court reporter's fingers paused over her machine. Pinch opened his mouth. Close it. Opened it again. No further questions. The deposition ended. Gavin and my mother left without looking at me. Pinch gathered his papers and hurried out. Thorne leaned back in his chair. That went well? Did it? You just buried their case, Tessa. The judge is going to see right through them. I felt exhausted, hollowed out. Mark squeezed my shoulder. You did good. I didn't feel good. I felt like I just testified against my own family, because I had. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my mother's face, the rage, the betrayal, as if I was the one who had wronged her. I got up and made tea. I sat by the window watching the city lights. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy, Tessa. You've destroyed this family. I didn't respond. I blocked the number. Another text came through. Different number. You'll regret this. Block. Another. We'll never forgive you. Block. They were relentless, but I was done. I turned off my phone. I sat in the darkness, and I waited for the trial. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. It wasn't a full trial, just a preliminary hearing to determine if the asset freeze should remain in place. But it felt like a trial. It felt like my entire life was on the stand. Thorne and Mark prepped me obsessively. We rehearsed every question, every answer, every possible trap. The night before the hearing, I couldn't eat. I sat in my apartment staring at the walls. Mark called. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be. Tessa, listen to me. Tomorrow, you're going to walk into that courtroom and you're going to see your family. They're going to look at you like you're the villain, but you're not. You're the one who survived. I know. Do you? Because I've seen this before. The guilt, the second guessing. You're going to want to apologize. You're going to want to make peace. Don't. I won't. Good. Because the moment you show weakness, they'll exploit it. I hung up. I looked at the photo on my desk. Gavin carrying me home. Best brother ever. I picked it up. I walked to the kitchen. I held it over the trash can, and I let it fall. It landed face down in the garbage. I didn't fish it out. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling. Rows of benches. A judge's bench that looked like it had been carved in the 1970s. My family sat on the left side. Mom, Dad, Gavin, and Pinch. I sat on the right side. Thorne, Mark, and me. The judge walked in. An older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. Judge Caroline Brennan. All rise. We stood. She sat. We sat. She looked at the paperwork in front of her. Then she looked at Pinch. Mr. Pinch, you filed for a constructive trust and quantum merit. That's a bold move. Explain your theory. Pinch stood. Your Honor, my clients have been systematically excluded from wealth that rightfully belongs to them. The defendant purchased the winning lottery ticket using funds provided by her brother. Furthermore, the defendant made explicit promises as a child to share her future wealth with her mother. Judge Brennan raised an eyebrow. Promises made by a 10-year-old? Your Honor, children are capable of forming intent. The video clearly shows. Judge Brennan held up a hand. I've seen the video, Mr. Pinch. I've also seen the promissory notes the defendant had her mother sign. Notes that explicitly supersede any prior agreements. Do you have a response to that? Pinch hesitated. Your Honor, those notes were signed under duress. The defendant used her superior legal knowledge to manipulate her mother. Judge Brennan looked at my mother. Mrs. Miller, were you coerced into signing those notes? My mother stood. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Your Honor, I didn't understand what I was signing. Tessa told me it was just a formality. I trusted her. Judge Brennan looked unimpressed. Mrs. Miller, you're an adult. You have a responsibility to read what you sign. But Your Honor, I'm her mother. I shouldn't have to protect myself from my own daughter. The judge sighed. Mr. Thorne, your response? Thorne stood. Your Honor, this case is frivolous. The plaintiffs have no legal standing. The ticket was purchased with the defendant's funds. We have bank records, receipts, digital timestamps. Furthermore, the plaintiffs have a documented history of financial abuse against the defendant. They've stolen from her, lied to her, exploited her for years. This lawsuit is simply the latest attempt to extract money they have no right to. Judge Brennan nodded. I'm inclined to agree, but Mr. Pinch has raised the issue of family obligation. And Illinois law does recognize quantum meruit in certain circumstances. So I'm going to hear testimony. Let's start with the plaintiff. Mrs. Miller, take the stand. My mother walked to the witness box. She placed her hand on the Bible. She swore to tell the truth. Pinch approached. Mrs. Miller, can you describe your relationship with your daughter? My mother's voice broke. I love Tessa. I've always loved her. I gave her everything. I raised her. I fed her. I clothed her. I sacrificed so much for her. And when she won the lottery, she cut us out. She didn't even tell us. We had to find out from the news. Because you uninvited her from Christmas. Objection, Pinch shouted. Sustained. Mr. Thorne, please wait your turn. Pinch continued. Mrs. Miller, why do you believe you're entitled to a share of the winnings? Because she promised. She looked me in the eye and promised she'd take care of me. And I believed her. I raised her to be honest, to value family. And now she's throwing us away like garbage. She started crying. Real tears this time. Pinch handed her a tissue. No further questions, Your Honor. Judge Brennan looked at Thorne. Your witness. Thorne stood. He didn't approach the witness box. He stayed at our table. His voice was calm. Mrs. Miller, when your daughter was 16, where was her college fund? I don't understand the question. Let me be more specific. Your daughter saved $20,000 for college. What happened to that money? My mother shifted in her seat. We needed it. For what? Gavin's business. And did that business succeed? No. Did you pay Tessa back? We intended to. That's not what I asked. Did you pay her back? No. Mrs. Miller, how many times have you borrowed money from your daughter? I don't know. A few times. According to the defendant's records, you borrowed money 43 times in 5 years. A total of $43,000. How much have you repaid? My mother's face flushed. We've had financial difficulties, so your daughter had to sacrifice her education and her savings to cover your difficulties. But now that she has money, you believe she owes you? That's different. How is it different? Because she has $45 million. She can afford to share? Thorne picked up a document. Mrs. Miller, on December 10th, did you tell your daughter she was uninvited from Christmas? That was a misunderstanding. Did you or did you not tell her not to come because she couldn't afford the gift exchange? I was trying to save her embarrassment. By excluding her? By calling her drab? By telling her she'd ruin your Instagram photos? My mother's mouth opened and closed. No further questions. She stepped down. Her face was red. Her hands were shaking. Gavin was called next. He swaggered to the stand. Confident. Mr. Miller Pinch began. Can you explain the $20 bill? Sure. On the morning of December 12th, I gave Tessa $20. I told her to buy us some lottery tickets. She bought one. It won. That ticket should be mine. Mr. Thorne? Thorne stood. Mr. Miller, where were you on the evening of December 12th? At home. Why? Thorne slid a photo across to the judge. This is a photo you posted on Instagram. Time-stamped 6:53 p.m. You're holding a 6-pack of IPA beer. The caption reads, "Thanks sis for the beer run." Do you see that? Gavin paled. So the $20 you gave your sister wasn't for lottery tickets. It was repayment for pizza you owed her. And she used it to buy your beer. Is that correct? I don't remember. You don't remember posting this photo 5 hours after you allegedly told her to buy lottery tickets. Gavin looked at Pinch. Pinch looked at the floor. No further questions. Judge Brennan leaned forward. Mr. Miller, I'm going to ask you directly. Did you tell your sister to buy lottery tickets with that $20? Gavin hesitated. Not exactly. So you lied in your complaint? I misremembered. Judge Brennan's expression hardened. This case is dismissed. What? Gavin shouted. Your Honor. Pinch jumped up. We have other evidence. Mr. Pinch, sit down. I've heard enough. This case is frivolous. The plaintiffs have no standing. The asset freeze is lifted immediately. The defendant's motion for legal fees is granted. Mr. Pinch, your clients will pay all costs associated with this litigation. We're done here. The gavel struck. Sharp. Final. I felt my knees go weak. Thorne grabbed my arm. Steady. We're not done yet. What do you mean? Trust me. Thorne stood. Your Honor, if I may, there's one additional matter. Judge Brennan sighed. Make it quick, Mr. Thorne. Thorne pulled out a document. The trust agreement. He walked it over to Pinch. This is the Blue Sky Trust bylaws. I'd like to read section 4.2 for the court. He cleared his throat. If the immediate family members of the beneficiary maintain a cordial relationship and refrain from making financial demands or initiating legal action for a period of 1 year, the trustee shall distribute $100,000 annually to each qualifying family member. The courtroom went silent. Gavin's face went white. My mother stopped breathing. Thorne continued. This clause was active from the moment the trust was established. Ms. Miller included it as an act of generosity. She wanted to share her good fortune. But Section 4.2 subsection B states, this clause is void if any family member initiates legal action against the trust or its beneficiary. He closed the folder. By filing this lawsuit, your clients didn't just lose the case, Your Honor. They voided their own inheritance. They destroyed the very thing they were trying to claim. Thorne looked at Gavin. You didn't lose because we fought harder. You lost because you were too greedy to wait. Gavin stood up. You bitch. You set us up. Bailiff. Judge Brennan's voice was ice. The bailiff moved toward Gavin. Gavin looked at my mother. This is your fault. You said she owed us. You said we had to sue. My mother shrieked back. You said you gave her the money for the ticket. You lied. Judge Brennan slammed her gavel. Order. But they weren't listening. They were screaming at each other, blaming, accusing, devouring, exactly as I knew they would. I stood. I walked out of the courtroom. I didn't look back. Not once. In the hallway, Mark was waiting. He handed me a folder. The final accounting. Legal fees paid. Taxes withheld. And this? He pulled out a printed email. The villa. Closing is scheduled for next week. The seller waited. You knew? I made a call. Told them you were good for the money. I smiled. A real smile. The first one in weeks. Thank you, Mark, for everything. He smiled back. You know you're going to need a good accountant in Italy. Someone to handle international tax compliance. I happen to know a guy. Mark, are you offering to move to Italy? I'm offering to visit. Frequently. I'd like that. Me too. We stood there in the courthouse hallway. And for the first time, I felt light, free, like I could finally breathe. 3 months later, I stood on the terrace of Villa Serenity. The sun was setting over the Tuscan Valley. The sky was streaked with orange and gold. The air smelled like rosemary and bread baking in the village below. The villa was still a work in progress. The roof had been replaced. The plumbing upgraded. The frescoes in the dining room were being restored by a local artist. But it was mine. Fully. Legally. Irrevocably mine. I heard footsteps behind me. Mark walked out onto the terrace carrying 2 glasses of wine. He handed me one. To freedom. To freedom, I echoed. We clinked glasses. He had visited twice already. The first time, he stayed for a week. The second time, 2 weeks. This time, he hadn't mentioned a return flight. I didn't ask. I liked having him here. My phone buzzed. I hadn't blocked the family numbers. I wanted to see if they'd reach out, if they'd apologize, if they'd acknowledge what they'd done. It was a text from my mother. Tessa, please. We made a mistake. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long moment. Mark looked over my shoulder. Are you going to respond? No. Good. I deleted the message. I didn't block her. I just didn't respond. Gray rock. Mark had called it. Become unresponsive. Give them nothing. It was the kindest form of cruelty because it left the door open, but I never walked through it. And neither did they. Not really. Every few weeks there would be a message. I'm sorry. We need to talk. Please don't shut us out. But never an acknowledgement of what they'd done. Never an apology for the lawsuit, for the theft, for the years of exploitation. Just a vague plea for reconciliation that required me to forget, to forgive, to go back to being the ATM. I wouldn't. Mark sat down on the stone bench. Do you ever regret it? Cutting them off? I thought about it. Sometimes, late at night when the villa was quiet, when I was alone. I thought about the good memories, the few that existed. My 10th birthday. Gavin carrying me home. My mother braiding my hair before school. But then I remembered the rest. The nights I spent balancing their checkbook. The mornings I woke up to angry creditors. The years I spent being the adult they refused to be. No, I said. I don't regret it. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that they couldn't love me without trying to own me. But I don't regret protecting myself. Mark nodded. My mother called me last week. What does she want? Money. She always wants money. What did you say? I said no. And she hung up. He smiled. It gets easier. Does it? Yeah. The guilt fades. The doubt fades. Eventually you realize that the people who truly love you don't make you choose between your well-being and their approval. I looked out at the valley. The sun had set. The sky was deepening to purple. The first stars were appearing. Do you think they'll ever understand? Probably not. People like that don't see themselves clearly. They'll always be the victims. And you'll always be the villain. But that's okay. You don't need their understanding. You just need your freedom. I smiled. You're right. I raised my glass. To freedom. Mark raised his. And to new beginnings. We drank. The wine was rich and warm. Local vintage. From the vineyard down the hill. The owner had brought me a case as a welcome gift. Welcome to Tuscany. May your troubles stay small and your wine stay full. I like that. A toast to smallness. To ordinary problems. To a life where the biggest worry was whether the frescoes would be done before winter. That night, I lay in bed listening to the sounds of the countryside. Cicadas. Distant church bells. The wind through the olive trees. I thought about the courtroom. About the look on my mother's face when Thorne read the clause. About Gavin screaming. About the gavel striking. Final. Absolute. I thought about the lottery ticket. The slip of thermal paper that changed everything. If I hadn't bought it, I'd still be in Chicago. Still answering my mother's calls. Still bailing Gavin out. Still playing the role of the designated adult. But I did buy it. And I did win. And I did protect myself. And now I was here. In a villa on a hill in Italy. Free. I fell asleep, smiling. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through the tall windows. I made coffee in the small kitchen. I walked out to the terrace. Mark was already there reading a book. Morning. Morning. Sleep well? Like the dead. He smiled. Good. We have a busy day. The contractor's coming at 10, and the art restorer wants to show you the progress on the frescoes. Sounds perfect. And tonight I thought we could drive into Florence. There's a restaurant I want to try. I like that. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee, watching the valley wake up. This was my life now. Not a fantasy, not a blueprint, real. And it was better than anything I'd imagined. Because it was mine, earned, protected, fought for. No one could take it from me. Not anymore. I thought about Jerry at the gas station, about his warning. Family changes when money's involved. He was right. But what he didn't say was that sometimes change is necessary. Sometimes the only way to survive is to let go, to walk away, to choose yourself. I chose myself, and I would do it again, every single time. If you've ever had to cut toxic family out of your life, leave a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me how you survived. And if you're still in the middle of it, if you're still trying to decide whether you're allowed to choose yourself, let me tell you something. You are. You always were. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about resilience and breaking free. I'll see you in the next one.